companies don't exist. It's just people. Like, it's people, whether they're in a building like this together or they're out there. Like, a company is an idea, and it's this, that these people share this idea that they're going to work toward this one direction, and the more buy-in you can get into that idea, the better. The more talented people you can find, the better.
We have Luke Hansen from CompanyCam, which is kind of ironic that we're doing this for startup CompanyCam, right? Yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
You looked at me like I said it
You
wrong.
looked at me like something was weird.
I was going to say that we have a Lincoln company for Startup Omaha Week, but we really do try to bridge the gap between the two ecosystems and try to make it one big ecosystem. So I think this is perfect. So first of all, Luke, if you would just start off by telling us what is CompanyCam at like a very high level, and then we'll get into kind of the story of how you got to where you're at today.
Totally. So CompanyCam is an app for contractors, and CompanyCam empowers them to do visual communication to build trust both inside of their business and with their customers. So you've all worked with a contractor. Trust is a big deal. Like, it's often frustrating. Are they going to show up? Like, did they do it right? There's all these questions, but when you are a contractor and you're doing the work, like capturing, taking photos, which is kind of our specialty, and communicating those transparently through your business is an incredible way to build trust with your people, but also with your customers. So that's the super short pitch.
Awesome. So where are you guys at now? Like, what is the scale that you're at, ballpark, like employee level? Like,
so we started 2015, 7 years ago. We have just over 200 people. I want to say 206, and a few interns. I don't know how handful of interns. We're doing a little over 20 million ARR, and yeah, it's going really well. No problems. Everything just works perfectly. Nothing
Never
is
any
ever
issues.
going wrong. Yeah.
Startups are so easy, right?
Exactly.
All right, we can leave now.
Yeah. It's simple. Just yeah.
Awesome. So congrats on the success so far, building a really strong company. I know some people that work there, they absolutely love it, so that's something that also should be applauded, building a company that people actually enjoy going to work.
That is important. Quick note on that.
Yeah.
Who are those people? I want to have a talk. No. I give every new hiring class like this talk about kind of like where we've come from, a little bit of like where we've come from, where we are, where we're going is how I frame it, and then what it's kind of like to work here. And that, what I try to always tell people is like we have to accomplish things. Like we want to have fun a lot, but we don't have a business if we don't make our customers happy, if we don't grow. So like we have to do that, but we want to do that in a sustainable way for everyone working there, so that we're not burning people out. Because like I've gone through just phases of where you're like, dragging, like I could just go work somewhere, that would be nice. And it's competitive. Like the market is competitive. People have options, especially you're looking for good talent, and that like having it be fun. I always use this line of like, if I bump into you in the grocery store in 10 years, I don't want to be like, fuck, Jackie's in aisle 11, I'm gonna go to aisle 12. I don't want to, like I want to like build relationships that last over time, so that in the future we're reminiscing about like, yeah, it was hard, but we enjoyed it and it was like a lot of fun. And I think, thank goodness, that is carrying through. And our HR team, especially the people team, they don't like being called HR, they do a really good job of that. Like we're having we call it the Cam Jam. Sorry, I'm scope creeping this conversation.
It's okay.
But that's what
I'll pull you in if it's going
CEOs
too far.
are supposed to do. And so we're kind of flying people in because we've got maybe like let's call it 60% are local, and then 40% or so are just remote, distributed. Everyone's coming in, we're hanging out, we're like doing some fun stuff. We're playing a concert. We formed up 3 bands inside of our company and are playing cover songs.
The people in the company.
Yeah. And we practiced the other night. It was a little bit rough, but we're gonna get there. And so it's like, but that like, we want to, and it, like try to go out of our way to do stuff like that. and it really does like actually pay off because people do actually like it, and that it makes a difference on a daily basis.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, if you have people that are telling other people that it's cool to work here, then you're going to get the best talent kind of magneting towards your company as well.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So let's go way back to kind of the beginning, because that's what we do here at Startup Grind. We really love hearing the story, kind of the origin story, and then talking about maybe some of the issues and lessons you learned along growing. So where did you start? How did you get into CompanyCam in the first place?
Okay. How far back do we want? So
when were you born?
Yeah, 1984. I'm 38. So that's actually, I was thinking about this because the way I got into CompanyCam was because my dad owns a roofing company in originally based out of Lincoln, but it's like Lincoln, Omaha, Grand Island, kind of all around. It's called White Castle Roofing. No relation to the hamburger place, but when we opened our Omaha office, someone put on like Craigslist like free hamburgers, and they were all convinced that I did it, and I didn't do it. But people were showing up pissed because they couldn't get White Castle hamburgers. My dad is from a little town called Butte, Nebraska, where they farmed, they had like cattle, like a couple hundred head. I think that's a lot. I don't really know. And then he came here and started a roofing company, and I grew up like cleaning up jobs. I say maybe I was like 13-ish when I started doing this, and slowly just did all, like it was like I graduated to nailing down the shingles, which was a pretty big accomplishment at the time, and doing all these jobs in this roofing company. Went to college, dropped out of college, went back to college, traveled a little bit. I had to give my dad like an annual, he would ask me, are you going to be here next year? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll commit to next year. Because I wasn't committed to I believed in the business, but I just wasn't like, this is what I want to do long term. I didn't honestly know exactly what I wanted to do. But this whole buildup is to say, my dad worked really hard to build this business. He was on the roof at 40 years old, like tearing off shingle, like doing the hard work of like a contracting business. And so I was in a position to be able to be there. I didn't have to build it, but I could see problems that I had that I thought, gosh, like why isn't there an app for this? And specifically, I was managing our kind of like gutter and siding install stuff, and I was doing all the marketing, and pictures were important. We're trying to get everyone to take pictures, but like this is back, let's call it 2014, when people would hand you the tiny micro SD card that you would put into the larger SD card that you would then put into your computer. And then guys would print them off, and I was trying to get everyone on Dropbox, and I couldn't get anyone to like actually remember to upload their photos, and then if they did, they were not in the right folder. It was just like, I was like, this should be simple. Like we're carrying around these like cameras with like GPS inside of them and supercomputers. Like we should just be able to go out, take all these pictures, and just have them be organized and saved for us, so that we don't have to do it. And there's like a privileged element to that. I like to run with blessed. Like I feel like I'm blessed to be there and have that opportunity to see that problem and experience it, and then say, hey, what if we solved this problem? Because I looked around, I was like Googling like all these things, trying to figure out like who is solving this problem, and no one was. And it was podcasts. I mean, I want to say I was listening to like Smart Passive Income. If anyone's ever heard of that podcast, it's a good podcast. Pat Flynn, great guy. Just some other stuff kind of like that, and like, get to thinking, I use apps, like I can make an app. Famous last words, like this should be simple, like is what we're saying. And so that's how we started, and I often run on the ask forgiveness versus permission framework, just generally. And so I hired a local dev shop to start building this app that I had in mind before I like told my dad, like the owner of the company, we just wrote him a check for $25,000 and it's like, get going. And so that was the sort of beginning, and actually met I couldn't find a technical co-founder, or like realized that if we wanted to do this as a business, we had to build a company, that like contractors are great and they helped us get off the ground, but like over the long term, you need like people that are really committed to making it happen.
Right.
And so came up to the Omaha Startup Weekend 2015 to the pitch competition or something, and went around to all the groups like, hey, we're doing this. And eventually met Chad, who's our CTO now. And so anyway, that's how it started.
I'm just curious about that, because I know a lot of people are kind of in that same boat. They're like, I have a solution that I think will work, but I maybe am currently having a dev shop work on it, but I know that I need a CTO. How did that kind of happen?
That is, to me, a very pivotal moment of hustle. Like I go both ways on the word hustle, because I believe in it like very strongly.
Yeah.
Like you have to just make it happen. But at the same time, I don't think you have to work 14 hours a day and like, you know, eat ramen. Like you can live and hustle. Like it's possible. But if you cannot sell someone to work on your thing with you, like your vision, if you cannot help someone else see the vision that you see and help them believe that it can be what you think it can be, at all the chances, it's like pitching investors. Like if you can't do that for one person to work with you or for you, then you probably won't be able to do that for investors, and it'll be hard for customers. And the thing is, it's almost like the hardest. Convincing someone to leave their job, like investors have money, and they don't actually sweat it that much if they write you a check. I mean, you know what I mean, depending on who they are, but convincing someone to quit a good job that they often have, or to, you know, take that leap it's almost the hardest out of all of those, of selling customers, of selling investors, is selling like the people that are going to change their whole career to work on this thing. And so that just takes a serious commitment to doing it, and I don't want to say like a refusal to fail, but like it really is a commitment. It's just like, I don't know, like I was posting ads, running around, and I don't know, go to where they are, go to the startup weekend, walk around, talk to every group, and you get told no a lot, you know, and people don't get it. And we've hired a lot of people that I tried to hire before, and they're like, yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. I probably wasn't explaining it. And but you know, there is a certain probably personality that is excited about the kind of beginning of something, and the opportunity and the chance to like just make it is really exciting. And there's a risk profile there. Like, are you ready to take that risk? There's also a lot of people who value the stability more than the kind of like excitement and the potential upside. And so that's kind of where you want to look. But my only real advice is like, you just have to make it happen.
Yeah, that's probably why going to startup events and events like that versus going to like a developer meetup or something is maybe the better place to go. I know there's a couple people that are here at these events that are technical, that are not currently working on a startup, that, you know, who knows who they're going to bump into and be like, you know, or maybe they have their own idea and they're looking for a salesperson.
Yeah, and I don't want to put anyone like say like, oh, if it hasn't happened for you, you're just not trying hard enough. It's not that, but it took me a solid, let's say, 6 months of like really trying to find what amounted to anyone that would say yes. I didn't know what a good engineer is. Like I would say like that's lucked into Chad, who's our CTO, and his sort of like capabilities and just a kind of ability to move. Like when I think of the way that you need to operate at the like earliest stage, which is to like move really fast and like, you know, eventually you want to have like a skyscraper, you know, and so your inclination is to try to build all the infrastructure like for this skyscraper, but no one wants to buy the first floor of a skyscraper with like rebar sticking out the top, you know, like, so you kind of have to build like a little nice looking little house, and then over time you're figuring out like you got to build up layers on top of that. Like, how do I turn this house into a sky? I don't know if you guys are following this building analogy.
I actually thought that was a really good analogy, but yeah.
That's why you're up here with the mic, Craig.
So yeah, right. So what were some of the issues that you ran into early on? Like, how did you go from, you know, you had your parents' company that could use it. How did you start getting other contractors on board?
Yeah, it was slow going, and you know, I knew roofing. So I talked to some other local roofing companies, but they were skeptical. It's like, oh, White Castle Roofing, I'm going to use their app. They're just going to steal all my jobs. Or, you know, I ran into a lot of this. We started really early on running Facebook ads, just making ads, running them, and it's probably a golden age of Facebook ads where they just worked better than they do now. We went to like industry, so we're selling to contractors, like anyone that would come to your house and work on something, that's who we're trying to sell to. But even though a roofer and a plumber and a pool builder all have like the same basic problem, which is communication, accountability. You can't be at every project all the time. It's shared. A roofer and a pool builder, they don't have the same identity, right? Even though that problem is basically the same, and our app can work just as well for both of them, it's hard to put out like a piece of marketing or sales material that like resonates over here and resonates over here. And so we were like, we know roofing, we're gonna go talk to roofers. So we tried to make, it was like 4 pillars: partnerships and integrations, connect to other software they're using, and the sort of industry groups and the people that have the one-to-many opportunities. Like they already have 4,000 roofing companies that buy their shingles or whatever. Talk to them. So we did that. We ran a bunch of Facebook ads. We just sort of cold called and hustled, and then we went to trade shows. I don't know if those are actually the right 4, but they work.
That makes sense though. I think that the partnerships thing is an interesting thing. I see a lot of earlier stage startups are able to kind of like speed that process up. It's like, it's a big sell to get them sometimes to like trust you and understand what you're doing and make it valuable to them.
Yeah.
But once you do, you have access to a lot of customers.
And you do need you usually need some sort of like if I'm the CEO or the founder and I'm just telling you, hey, our product's great, everyone loves it, they're okay, whatever, everyone says that, they may independently be able to look at it and decide, but once they have some of their other members, or kind of that like real testimonial where it's like, oh no, this thing is fabulous, look what it's doing for us, that's when it really starts to work. And I think that's like an important thing to understand. I don't know how universal this is, but it gets easier to sell and to grow the more that you grow. Like the more customers you have, there's some endpoint to this where you hypothetically have the whole market. We're not close to that, and I doubt anyone in here is like worried about running out of customers total. But once your customers start talking about you, everyone loves to talk about things they like and things that make them sound smart, right? So if you're using CompanyCam, our app, and like the next roofer that you meet at this convention doesn't know about it, and you get to say, oh, this thing really helps us, and look how nifty it is, and what they're functionally saying is, aren't I smart and cool for finding this really smart tool? They will talk about it. And so like just referrals on any given month are our biggest.
Do you reward referrals?
Yeah, so most of them are, in a sense, go unrewarded because it is quite literally word of mouth. Like when our inside sales team, so someone signs up for a free trial, we call you, and mostly we're trying to like get you up and running and like help you see the value, but we're also finding out how do you hear about us, this kind of stuff, if they didn't fill it out on the sign up form. And referrals ends up being number one almost every month. We're running a referral program. I'm about to change it because I want to start giving away money instead of swag. See if that works any better. But for the most part, it's just people just talk to other people, and that works. And at the beginning, you see it like a little bit, but it's sort of so small that like, oh, we got one person because someone told someone. That's cool.
I think a big part of that is probably how well you're meeting the need of the customer with your solution, like how stoked they are to actually be using it. So
yes, them liking. I mean, I'd say this is revealed preferences. If they're using it, it doesn't necessarily mean they like it. Usually it does. Like most of us don't have the power to force someone to pay for our software, or our product, and so. At least for a start, it's valuable enough that even if they're frustrated with it, they'll keep using it. Now, if they really, really enjoy it, and that's something that I cared about a lot, is the user experience. We don't have it even close to perfect. Like we were doing a million things wrong, and you don't have to have that stuff perfect, but like trying to put yourself in the shoes of like there's an actual person on the other side of this who has no patience whatsoever and who doesn't really care, trying to experience it. And in the case of our customers, we sell to a company. It's like B2B SaaS. So XYZ Roofing, White Castle Roofing buys CompanyCam. And then they essentially say, you all have to use this. So a lot of our users are like made to use it. Now, it's not that they all don't want to, but it's not like they were out looking for this app to use. They're told to do it. But yeah, the better experience you can deliver, and we've bet on this many times over, and it's very hard to measure, but it seems to always pay off. Like we started sending every company like a box. I think it's inspired by Bulu Box. Anyone remember Bulu Box? Shout out Paul Jarrett. It just was like, oh, that's cool. What if we sent people a box when they became a paying customer? They just randomly, we called it the mystery box from CompanyCam, and it would just have like some stupid trinket and like a hat and a t-shirt and stuff. But like people really liked it, and it yes, they really liked it. It's hard to measure what that did for referrals. Like we just basically committed to cost like $40. We can do this. And if we have people that feel like they're on our team, they've got our t-shirt, they're kind of part of this thing, that will be material. And I think it really works, even though to my CFO's incredible frustration, I couldn't show you one line of data that says that made any difference at all.
I think it's interesting because that kind of feeds into a lot of the like community marketing stuff that people are trying to do with their customers, and they're trying to like figure out, what it is. But the ones that do it really well are just people that have customers that feel bought into the company. They're like you said, it's like they feel smart for being part of it, and like being able to say like,
it represents them in some way. I mean, I don't know. Some people do this really, like Apple originally, you know, they're doing this whole think different. They kind of, just this idea that like, I mean, it's still the case. Like the idea for a lot of people that have an iPhone of having an Android phone is not, it's like, it is literally almost a part of their identity or something that like, even if it could be shown that it was better in every regard, like I have an iPhone, I'm not making the case that it is better. Hey, I'm not down on Android people, but I'm saying they've done this so successfully that it's like your piece of technology, your computer is almost like this sort of fashion statement part of your identity. We're not anywhere near that close, but we're trying to like scratch that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting to be in a B2B business and even be able to like, get into that space at all. But so as you started growing, what were some of the challenges when you started to hire more employees and you couldn't personally be next to people the whole time when they're
the worst. Gosh, no. For me, well, there's plenty of challenges. Realizing that what I needed to be thinking about was building a business versus building a product was hard. That's still hard. This is not normal. I stayed up, I'm old, so I stayed up till midnight, which isn't necessarily that late, but like after my kids went to bed, just like drawing up app screens on Whimsical. Whimsical's awesome, you should use it. See, this makes me sound smart. I like Whimsical, so I'll talk about it. But yes, you need to make a product that people love, that solves their problem. Absolutely, that's like table stakes to do anything. But if you're in leadership or if you're the founder, your resource is people, 100%. Like we have all the things that we do. I can't write code. I can read some of it. It's all leveraging the talents of other people, helping everyone get pointed in the same direction. And that was really hard for me because I like making landing pages, designing app screens, like the kind of all the problems that you just kind of run into and trying to like go to market and sell something I find them fun to just like try to do something with. But then I realized like, okay, I'm doing this company a huge disservice by spending all of my time making this landing page or like building this Facebook ad rather than worrying about building this company. And companies don't exist. It's just people. Like, it's people, whether they're in a building like this together or they're out there. Like, a company is an idea, and it's this, that these people share this idea that they're going to work toward this one direction. And the more you know, buy-in you can get into that idea, the better. The more talented people you can find, the better. That is, once you have something, maybe even before, like, I guess you could build a great team and they could do the whole thing, but that was really hard for me to wrap my head around, and still is hard, because the other stuff to me is fun, and like being in like tons of meetings and the kind of just administration of the business is not as fun for me, and so it's easy to gravitate toward things that are fun. But that was like the hugest hurdle I had to overcome, was like, okay, I can't do this, someone else has to do this, and if I micromanage the shit out of them and make their life miserable, then they're not going to want to work here. So like that kind of like letting go of a bunch of things was hard.
How far into CompanyCam was it where you started replacing some of those things that you enjoyed doing but realized they're not necessarily the role that you needed to be filling?
So I would say still to this day, that is an ongoing, I was making an app screen last night at midnight. So that's not, I'm not fully out of the program, so to speak. But it was probably in like 18 months to 2 year range. So call it like late 2016, 2017, when I was like, okay, if I am responsible for like doing the Facebook ad, making the landing page, planning the next feature, whatever, going to this trade show, all this stuff, then we can't scale any of those things, because like it all runs through me. And yeah.
As you are coming to where you're at now, like, what are some of the things that you're currently like learning recently at the scale that you're at that you find interesting?
Learning at the scale that we're at. So, lately I've been thinking, so we hired recently, like 6 months ago, hired a new COO, Hank. Hank is experienced. That means old, but he's experienced. He's been like helping me sort of see like on the sort of what the most important things are for me to be doing for the business, and this idea of being willing to move, willing to change and do different things, but also being predictable in the sense that people know what to expect, know what the expectations are. Because at the beginning, the kind of like chaotic, like this, you're looking for opportunities and you just have to go do things. That's really, the ability to do that is important. When you have 200 people, like you can just, I can cause like problems trying to be over here and doing this and doing this and doing this other thing. And so that's, for me personally as a founder, that's something that just this idea of like, it's about the people, and then leadership and how that changes, like leadership at 10 people, a whole bunch of the principles apply, but the sort of practical implementation of them is just different. And then a lot of my thinking is about how do we simultaneously go the same direction where we're coherently working towards something that is a shared vision, empower people to do really good work, which kind of, that's hard, right? Because if we're trying to work in a clear direction, then those are in a sense constraints on what ideas can happen and what people can do. But how do we work in a clear direction, empower people to do great work? Because if you want to keep people, they have to feel like they have ownership, and like if you're micromanaging them all the time, good people don't want to be in that environment. They want to be able to affect things, and to kind of avoid, to have the enough structure for the thing to function, but not in a sense overcomplicate it with bureaucracy so that it like everything is 10 layers of navigating the org chart to do a simple thing. And that's tricky, and it's sort of an ongoing battle. Like we just changed the way we're doing our like planning at a quarterly rate, and like how just because it's just evolving. And we've said this is probably really cliche, but the idea of the only constant thing is change. Like that we are trying to figure out a better way, consistently a better way to do things, and it's going to change. And if you know that coming in, hey, things are going to change. We're going to tell you, like our company mission is to help build trust through truth and transparency. It kind of goes to what our app does, but it's also just something I really believe in, which is if we trust each other, the way we build that trust is by communicating the truth, communicating it transparently through the organization. Doesn't mean posting everyone's salaries or, like but just this idea of like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is why we're trying to do it. We're all on the same team. That empowers everyone. Now, I feel like I'm losing my steam here, and you need to pull me back. It's like,
I was following along, but so one thing I want to circle a little bit back, just because I'm curious. When you were building the product and kind of solving this problem you have a problem and you're trying to solve that problem for you, and then you started bringing other contractors on as customers. Was there a point where you had to kind of figure out how to not get dragged in a million directions with all the features they wanted or asking for, and how did you navigate
Absolutely.
that?
That's a great question. Yes. It's hard. We did some dumb things that were like, oh, these people want this, let's do it, type of stuff. I think this is true larger in life, but like having a clear identity solves a lot of those problems. So like knowing this is who we are, this is who our customer is, this is where we're trying to go, and you want to be, you in a sense need to be a little bit opportunistic, right? Like if you are like, no, we're just selling to painting companies, but everyone that comes to you is a plumber, then you might be like, oh, well, maybe we should like turn our attention over here. But for us, what we decided is we are only solving problems that are shared across all contractors. So our customers are contractors, and we are only going to build tools that they can all use. So we're not going to build like a paint color identifier or something, because like no one outside of painters cares about that. And that was really helpful. Now one of the things you run into is most of our customers are small to medium size SMBs, small to medium sized businesses. And so if you have like 8 people at your company, it is really tricky to make software that works for 8 people and software that works for like 800 people or 8,000 people. And so us realizing, okay, it would be cool to try to go after these huge companies that have tons of people, but when we originally built it, we built it for my dad's roofing company. They had 50 people at the time, and it's kind of like, what's the sweet spot? It worked really good for 50 people. And so that, if you know your identity, then you can answer those questions kind of automatically, and the not chasing shiny things.
Yeah.
Justin, don't chase shiny things. Is because I know I'm prone to do that, and I think there's something of the entrepreneur kind of mindset. Like there's an opportunism, and you see something new and exciting, and you're like,
yeah, basically every single founder that I've talked to has said, I have someone on my team that reels me in when I'm going
100%.
Like I have all the ideas, and they say, okay, well, this is the one that we can actually do. And then, you're still maybe like, but this one's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions, because there's a lot of people here, so I want to give plenty of time for questions.
You guys are glowing.
Yeah,
there's
this
like gorgeous
radiant
backlight. You're all like.
We also can't see any of your faces, but so anyone have any questions?
So first of all, you give really great analogies, and as an audience, I appreciate that. Makes the basic pretty clear.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions actually. Number one, you mentioned about lead gen. You use some digital activities. We said hustle and cold call.
Yes.
I run B2B SaaS, and we've been counting mostly or mainly on inbound, but not much outbound. And we want to explore the outbound right now. I want to hear your experience about outbound. That's the first one.
Yeah. So, okay, go ahead.
So let me put the second question out. The second question is, as a B2B SaaS, if we dumb it down to like 5 KPIs, like what are the main 5 KPIs you care about in B2B SaaS?
Okay, yeah. So number one, we do very little cold calling. In fact, I would say we do almost effectively zero cold calling. What we do now is if someone did a free trial and then they quit, our SDR team we started this like 2 months ago, is calling these people who kind of didn't convert in their free trial. So cold calling is hard, and some places have figured out kind of how to scale it. What I would really say is that inbound is always better. Like anytime, if they have if you can warm up that lead in some fashion, they saw an ad that we made, they watched a webinar, like even if it's like the most minor way, they have seen our name on paper, like that, you're like, I'm gonna make a complete bullshit statistic. You're 4 times more likely to close that person. And so I'm not an expert in cold calling. I had very little success with it, and we almost do all inbound now through like demand gen, like I was saying, integrations, social, paid acquisition on social, partnerships, and then kind of like word of mouth. And there's other channels, but like, so we do very little of that. I'm trying to think if I know anyone who does that really well. If you email me, I will put a little more thought into that and see if I can point you in a better direction. But that I don't know for sure. And your second question was 5 KPIs. I mean, the clearest being like revenue. Like I would say like your funnel or whatever. I'm a believer in multiple funnels. Sort of like the idea that people come to your business through different paths, though you can kind of abstract that into one funnel. And the total number of leads that you're getting, whatever you consider a lead, it could be that they watched a video, it could be however you decide what a lead is, and then someone who sort of actively gets in contact with you. So I would look down that funnel, at least as far as like growth goes. And I'm saying this from kind of the other side of a product market fit place, where it's like we've got 17,000 contracting businesses using this. We know that it's basically valuable, and we don't need to prove out like a ton of product stuff. Plenty to learn there, but we're looking more at the kind of like growth side of these metrics. And so like, to reframe what I was saying, that is important, trying to grow. Your people just using your solution, like when they come in and they start using it, do they quit using it or do they keep using it? And I don't mean like, so in our app, they come in, they make one project and they're like, I'm out. They probably didn't have true consideration. They didn't actually integrate that into their business. They don't know if it really will make a difference for them. But if I'm trying to figure out if we have the product right, I'm saying like, how many people that truly start using it keep using it? And if we're losing a ton of those people, then I've got to figure something out there, because you don't want to pour a bunch of stuff into your funnel and then just have it fail out on the product side. So I would say that just general retention and kind of like usage numbers, whatever are relevant to you. And then I think onboarding is super important. I say that, and I don't think we've ever done it very well at all. But I think of onboarding as like the introduction. And once you've introduced yourself and you start getting to know each other, then it's like a whole different phase of your product, right? Because you really, most of the time, you build your product for users, people that are in a sense committed to using it, and you spend very little time, other than like maybe a quick tutorial or something, helping people like become users. But that phase of the introduction into becoming a user is really, really important. So I would say the usage stuff, then like, and onboarding is just a part of your funnel, so then I would go almost funnel metrics all the way back. If that makes sense.
Is there a literal way that you do that onboarding? Is it through in product? Is it email? Is it someone talking to them?
So what we do it across all of those. And again, we are not an exemplar here. Like our in-product onboarding, we've kind of experimented with, we've done different stuff. We have never been as dedicated to it as we should be, and we're trying to become more so right now. We heavily rely on our inside sales team. So when you sign up, you create a free trial of our app. We are like texting you, we're calling you, we're emailing you, like we're annoying, we're trying to get a hold of you. And most of our onboarding is like relational in the sense of we're talking with you. Now our customers, like if you're selling to software engineers, like depending on your customer, that can work well or better or worse. Our customers being contractors, like on the phone, no one wants to talk on the phone anymore. Almost no one. And if they do, be wary. You don't want to talk to them. They'll talk your ear off. But for us, it's like we are just looking. If we are able to have a conversation with them, we're converting them at like 3 to 5x the rate of if we don't. And so that's the core focus of our like onboarding is just talking to the people. And so I'm a big fan of the pull out all of the stops if you can, meaning, and I didn't do this very well, I should have. I think we would have grown faster if I would have done this, which is to say, everyone that signs up, like I was trying to like make these onboarding stuff, whereas what I should have been doing is freaking calling them, every single one. Right. Call them, email them, text them, and try to just have a conversation with them because they're your best, they're showing interest in your product. So yeah, there's a lot of, you asked me that question.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
So let's say you bring on a user, they've been using the product for a long time. We've heard a lot that you have to stay in touch with your customer long term to get a lot of that good feedback. What's the best mechanism you found to keep in touch with your customer long term?
So for us, I would say it is going out to these sort of industry events. There's all these like trade shows. It's like there's a roofing convention, and that is never going to be your best mechanism for growth, right? Like if you're stacking that up against other ways of getting new customers, it's like expensive, and you got to like rent a booth, and but as you get more and more customers, like we'll go to the International Roofing Expo, and at least half the people we talk to there, I'm making that up again, a lot of them, they already are our customers, and it is like an opportunity to catch 50 of our customers at one spot and just have conversations with them. And so we're going to these things. We have a whole team that just spends most of their time at these kind of events. So I would say that's number one. Then we have a customer success team who is proactively kind of reaching out and just talking to our customers and hearing things, doing support and like actually caring about doing that well, because that's like a channel for, but it's important to remember that that is a channel for frustrated people. Like if 5 people tell you to go fuck yourself, you're going to be like, man, we're terrible. But if you have 10,000 people using it, okay, it's 5 people out of 10,000. So it's number one is however you can talk to them in person, absolutely the best. And then secondarily, it's like talk to them on the phone, talk to them through the chat, but like whatever you can do in person will really help, because that most people are not going to go out of their way to tell you about something that like annoys them or a little idea that they had. But if you hand them a beer at a trade show, they're happy to do that. And we've learned a lot that way. And the people, they were giving me a hard time the other day because I got kind of frustrated, and I was like, if you haven't been to a trade show in the last quarter, I don't give a shit about what you're saying. I'm not listening to a word that comes out of your mouth. That wasn't true. I didn't really say it like that. But the idea being that it's just so important that you are connected to the customer, that you, and for us, that's being at these events, because it helps you keep grounded in what you're trying to do versus it's easy to float away. Even me, like I did the worked for my dad, did this roofing thing for 15 years off and on. And now I've been doing this for, call it 7 years. And I still understand what's going on over there, but I'm not feeling that every day. I just don't see it and feel it as viscerally as I used to. So I need to talk to our customers. And I have as much context as anyone.
Yeah.
Long answer. Great question. And
So, first of all, thank you for the company name, even though it's not a good Scrabble score.
yeah, we decided it was good enough. That was we didn't really believe in it that much, but it was like, hey, this domain is available, and we're running with it.
What do you think was your number one skill or characteristic that's made you successful?
I am a genius. No. I was thinking about this the other day. This morning, our head of product, Tiffany, shared like everyone on the product team, and then she put mine in there. Everyone's like Enneagram thing, which I actually kind of like those. Like typically I don't like that stuff, but those are, I don't know, I like them. The point is, you do have to, you have to be willing to like look stupid in a sense, and to kind of risk a lot. Now, what I mean is, this was not, someone like caught me down there or it was Tom Chapman. He said something about, wow, you guys are like the hottest startup in Lincoln. And I was like, thanks, Tom, that's cool. But no one was saying that. I had a guy at one of these events like a year after we started telling me, he's not here and I don't think any of you know, but he was like, you guys are kind of doing a bad job. I don't think you're very good at this. I don't think you're the right person to be doing this. And just like, he wasn't trying to be mean. He was trying to just give me honest feedback. But like, I remember thinking like, what's this guy? This guy doesn't even run a business. He doesn't know shit about anything. But it's like, when you're trying to learn a new thing, you will look stupid doing it. If you try to learn, so I tried to learn Spanish. I worked with a lot of guys who speak Spanish natively and mostly. And you sound stupid. And they didn't want, often, if they didn't speak English very well, they were afraid to speak because they didn't want to like be made fun of or look stupid. And if that is a thing that you run into that you are not willing to move to the other side of, almost guarantee that it won't work, because like, you are going to put yourself out there. You're going to do things that don't work, that are just embarrassing, and nothing is easier than shitting on someone else's idea. Like, you tell me an idea and I'm like, oh, that's dumb, that's not going to work for this reason, and often they're right, like it just didn't work. And so the willingness to just be to move through that and just sort of make peace with the fact that like, this thing could totally fail, it will be embarrassing, but I'm going to be fine. That kind of like attitude, I think, is really important. And I think I don't know, I'm willing to look at me. I'm willing to look stupid. Beyond that, this is like seemingly counterintuitive, but I was thinking about this where everyone has their best ideas in the bathroom. And it was, people have this idea of like people who are entrepreneurs or something, that they kind of are just like believers in like, oh, great idea, bro, let's do it. Like, that it's all kind of like, everything's going to work, it's all going to be great. And I actually think a lot of people who are great entrepreneurs are quite skeptical of ideas, or of plans, of things. Like, I'm pretty cynical about a lot of stuff, but it's when you have that critical attitude and then you run into something that you're like, okay, I'm legitimate. I don't think I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I'm looking at this from every side. I'm running it up against a whole bunch of people. That's important. Sorry, this is scatterbrained, but running your idea against other people and actually trying to get not just feedback, because if I go to you, Adam, and I'm like, hey, I got this cool idea, blah, blah, blah. Unless you really don't like me, you're very unlikely to be like, that's a stupid, like, that's not going to work, or go out. You'll just say, cool, awesome, that's great. But running it up against other people and being actually interested in the feedback, and it may be bad, and it may be wrong. They just might not like it for some reason.
How do you find a balance between, you're kind of saying one thing is like you have to be okay with looking stupid and you have to like just try things, and then another side is listening to the feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's
So
kind
it
of
is.
a art.
That to me, those are the same thing. And listening to the hearing the feedback, like in really hearing it, can be the looking stupid part.
Yeah.
Hey, that is dumb. That's not going to work. Why does anyone want to do that? Or like, just that it's kind of all part of it. But you do. I try to say this. Even if someone is being an asshole to you, it does not mean that they are wrong, right? Like, they might be right. And so they may be saying something I don't want to hear, or saying it in a way that is not the best way. We've all interacted with people in our lives who have a critical opinion about us or something we're doing. There is at least a grain of truth to, but the way that it is delivered makes it hard to hear. Like, you immediately want to fight back.
Yeah.
And I think your inclination is to protect yourself from that kind of like criticism and kind of like putting it out there. And I don't know exactly what all the ways are that you have to put it out there, but being able to do that, being able to take all the feedback and know what you believe, so that where you disagree, you can just persevere, but being willing to hear things that you maybe don't want to hear, that are counter to what you're sort of thinking, and integrate those is crucial. And I think I had another point, but I monologued on this for long enough that I'll just
That's okay.
drop it.
So, Startup Grind, one of our core values is help first. And, obviously we ask the speakers this and they always kind of laugh and they're like, I don't know what you can help with, but except for hiring, almost always. But
Yeah.
Is there anything that the startup community can help you with? You've just provided, I think, some really good insights for people here. Is there anything that people can give back?
What can you give back to me?
Follow your awesome Twitter threads.
No, God, no. Oh my gosh. Don't do that. No. That's like that's
I knew that was like the thing you would not want.
competitive, like, is it ongoing regret every time you write anything anywhere. You're like, why did I don't need to talk to anyone. I'll just don't put yourself out there. That's what I just said, right? Gosh. Yeah, hiring, that stuff matters. Like, any like material thing, but beyond that, honestly, shitting on anything that we're doing, a la what I was just saying, our website, our app, go look at it and like make fun of it. What's bad? What don't you understand? How could it be better? Just that I don't know. This could be fun. You don't have to do this, but the idea of like, a lot of times you don't actually move and either like make something new or fix something until you get really made fun of and you're like, oh, now this is painful and I need to do something. So that is, find one thing that our company is doing terribly and make fun of it. That's your job. Brianna, can you do that? Okay.
I think that's the best answer to that question.
There you go. That's what you need.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Luke.
Clap for myself.